senators to sue the government for a lot of money, $500,000 or more, if they discover the government scooped up their electronic data, seized their records without notification. And that happened to a handful of senators during Jack Smith's January 6th probe. It's actually a pretty good number, 8 of them. Josh Hawley, Marsha Blackburn, there you see them all on YouTube. Dan Sullivan, Ron Johnson, Bill Hagerty, and yes, Lindsey Graham, who is the only one of this group who has decided to take advantage of the new provision, and it seems sue the Department of Justice. Josh Hawley didn't want anything to do with it. He said, I think the Senate provision is a bad idea. There needs to be accountability for Joe Biden's DOJ. But the right way to do that is through public hearings, tough oversight, including the complicity of telecom companies and prosecution where warranted. Wonder what the panel thinks about this, because I'm not sure congressional approval ratings could go any lower. Rick Davis and Jeannie Shenzano are here on the Friday edition, Bloomberg Politics contributors. Rick is our Republican strategist, partner Stone Court Capital, spent a lot of years working in the Senate, and Jeannie is Democracy Visiting Fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center. I should note, by the way, and you guys know this, there's a standalone bill in the House because this is a Senate matter, and Republicans in the House hate this idea. They're going to try to knock it down next week in a floor vote. But Rick, that wouldn't, I'm assuming it wouldn't pass the Senate. What is John Thune thinking of putting this into a continuing resolution?
Yeah, this is pretty extraordinary, because the institution itself, the Senate, has lots of rights. They write the law. That's what people depend upon them, is they create these laws. And individual senators really don't have any success suing the federal government. They've tried it before because they tend to lack standing. I mean, what was the harm to the individual senator, that kind of thing. So in this case, they went to John Thune and said, hey, look, put a little law in this bill that gives us actually standing to sue the federal government, as if the entire Congress was affected by it. And that's pretty outrageous. That's self-dealing. But when it gets to the House of Representatives, they don't even know it's in there until almost after the fact. I mean, this is why you need to have these bills read before you vote on them. And by then it was too late. We need to open up the government. And Speaker Johnson has an absolute right to throw a fit over this because the Senate jammed him. They didn't tell it was coming. And it is totally an effort by the part of 8 senators to gouge the federal government for money. It's outrageous. And as Lindsey Graham said, forget this $500,000 that they're talking about. I'm going big money. He was a trial lawyer before he got elected to the Senate. He knows how to do this himself.
Wow. Big money, Jeannie. It's like we're on the Wheel of Fortune. In this case, nobody was watching the game show. Like Rick is saying, Tom Cole in a hearing just the other night said, wait a second, how the heck did this get in here? Are we just moving too fast? Or did John Thune pull a fast one?
I think both. I think 390 plus pages of a bill that they jammed through and had to get through quickly. And, both Democrats and Republicans in the House crying foul. Of course, they still sent the bill to the president under pressure, and now they're saying they're going to come back. But let's just take a step back. What is so not just morally and politically corrupt, but unjust about this entire endeavor is that they have given these 8 senators a right that is denied to all of the rest of us. The rest of us cannot, if the FBI or the DOJ are involved in legal, examining of our phone records, whatever else, cannot sue. And in fact, it wasn't that long ago that the Bivens Act was up. That didn't even make it through committee. And that act would have allowed people to sue the federal government and federal officials if their constitutional rights were violated. So we now have a Senate that is not even given the right to all Republican senators or all Democratic senators, only the 8 who were involved in some way or somehow on the phone with Donald Trump during the insurrection. And, you look at the stories on the other side, people who have said that their rights were violated by ICE, but have been denied the right to sue. That's not how we do things in the United States or in a democracy. Whether you are a big, powerful senator, a Republican or Democrat, or just a little old person like the rest of us, we should all be able to sue. And so this has absolutely got to be pulled back. And it is shameful that it got through in the way it did.
Oh, the House bill to kill this provision is expected to pass overwhelmingly, whether it's next week or not. It looks like that's the schedule here. Rick, what does John Thune do then? Do you just stay quiet or bring it to the floor?
Oh, well, I think he's going to have to take a vote on it, and he'll have to tell the caucus to vote their conscience. I mean, you can't have instructions from the leadership on this one because he got his hand caught in a cookie jar. I mean, that's what this is all about. He was hoping it would sail through, nobody would notice, nobody would complain, and make 8 of his members happy, and that's not what happened. And now everybody's talking about it, and Republicans and Democrats alike can be outraged by this because it really does set up a, totally different level of status within the legal system when you carve out and use an institution like Congress to give yourself a status that no other American is afforded by a special law that allows you to make money off of suing the federal government. I mean, I'm sorry, there's so much wrong with that it's not even a close call. So I don't think Thune wants in the middle of midterms with a third of his Senate up to have to defend this. He'll cave quick, and he should, because Johnson's right on this.
Wow. This panel is unified on this issue. Jeannie, what do you think about what Josh Hawley said? The right way to do this is, he says, is through public hearings, tough oversight, including the complicity of telecom companies. To what extent is that really what this story is all about?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Congress has the right to engage in oversight. If there is complicity on the part of the telecom companies, absolutely. The problem here is that for a party that ran on and has consistently talked about a 2-tier system of justice, that is exactly what they have created. And remember, when they engage in oversight, they don't then line their own personal and family coffers to the tune of $1 million per senator, right? So there's a vast difference between passing an amendment in this law that allows them to sue us and take $1 million from us because they have been wrong, deny us the right to do that, and engage in proper oversight. So absolutely proper oversight. But this thing has got to go. And I am not sure even how this thing got through. And talk about tone deaf in this environment when, to your point, Joe, the numbers for Congress can't get any lower. So maybe this putting their hands up and saying, we give up. We're as low as we can go. We're just going to take $1 million more. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous from almost every perspective.
Should Congress be focused on telecom companies here in being complicit with the DOJ? Rick, do telecom companies have any choice?
Yeah, I don't think the telecom company is a serious issue. Look, these arrangements with the telecom companies and the federal government were made decades ago. They are protecting the U.S. From terrorists and people who want to inflict harm on us by being able to use these things like FISA warrants to identify them and gather intelligence. Last thing we want to do is cripple our intelligence community because of a reaction like this. I mean, you could go into hearings to talk about the bad judgment that was elicited, because why in the world would you be collecting data on United States senators, for one, especially without a notification process? But I think absolutely people should look into, the conduct of decision makers around this. But the infrastructure is part of our national security apparatus. And I don't think we want to start pointing fingers at private companies who are supportive of the U.S. national security.
That's why I bring it up, and I think it's interesting to hear this coming from a Republican in Josh Hawley. Jeannie, if this passes the House, will John Thune have to take it up for a vote? Would it pass the Senate?
He absolutely should take it up, and God willing, it passes 100-0 and they get rid of it. Maybe it'll be like 92-8. I don't know, but it is absolutely outrageous. The reality is that when you are in the process of an investigation and you are looking at a target and you are the DOJ or the FBI and you legally get warrants to get phone records, we are all subject to that. If that is done unconstitutionally, then we need to make a decision as a country whether we allow for suing the federal government or federal officials over that. But you cannot carve out that these 8 people, because they happen to be US senators and very powerful, can sue, and the rest of us, we are just going to have to languish in the land of the powerless. That is absolutely a 2-tier system of justice. So, that is the problem here. They need to make a decision. And again, look at the Bivens Act. It was completely unable to get out of committee, would have allowed for this for all of us. If that's where they want to go there. But don't just go there for 8 or Republican senators.
Lastly, Rick, in our remaining minute or two here, what does this mean for the relationship between Mike Johnson and John Thune? These two seem to be very much in sync throughout the whole shutdown. This is a kind of a weird way to end it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they had their back on this, but they've grinded gears in other issues. It wasn't long ago we were talking about the Senate jamming them on the big beautiful bill. I mean, like that. So this is not unusual, right? I mean, like what the leader of the Senate does and the leader of the House does tends to be in conflict a good part of the time, and yet in this case, this was not a policy issue that was putting them in conflict. But John Thune giving a gift to 8 senators and nobody else in the Senate or House benefited from it. And I don't blame the speaker for being outraged by this. And kudos to him for bringing it up publicly and having a conversation about it, because I do think this is what keeps people honest.
Great panel. Lit up the panel with this topic. Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano, thank you so much. Both our Bloomberg Politics contributors will be back in our second hour as we welcome our global television audience to the conversation. Tyler Kendall will come in. We're going to be joined by former Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, the Republican from Virginia. And we'll take a look at the exemption of tariffs on some important food items that might make your life a little bit cheaper. Stuart Paul from Bloomberg Economics will join, so stay right here. Balance of Power, only